It's time for the Multifamily Network Podcast. Let's start the party.
Welcome to the Multifamily Network, the #1 platform for the multifamily industry's hottest and trending topics. Let's dive in and get this party started.
What can you do? So, well, look, I don't want to cue this up. Oh, we lost Tyler. Look at that. Technology's hard, even for technology companies. That's weird. So I'll wait for him to join back. Maybe I made him mad. Keith, you turned on your video and he left. I don't know what happened there.
Well, he saw my biceps and
That's
the size of his thighs. He got nervous.
Hopefully that part's not going to make it in the recording.
The bloopers are the best part. We don't edit anything out, especially the part where Keith said you were jealous of his biceps, and that's why you left.
Yeah, see, I actually didn't hear that. I actually didn't hear that part. That's what happens when you're attempting to make sure you silence your notifications so you're not distracted, and you just decide to quit Teams altogether. That's what happens.
That's the best part of publishing these things is the rawness, right?
Mm-hmm.
The perfection's boring. I don't know, so.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we've gotten popular and some traction on some fronts. They're like, that Matt guy is ugly and annoying, but it's fun to watch. He's like a train wreck. I don't know. So we'll figure it out. They'll tune in just for Travis, though, so I don't got to worry about it. It'll be fine. Well, look, I don't want to kick things off too, organized, to be honest with you. And I know, Tyler, Keith and I, but you don't know Travis. And Travis, you and I have been on panel and network together, but you don't know Tyler and Keith. Or maybe you do. Maybe you guys have run into each other. I don't know. But really, why I decided to put this one together, it stems off conversations that I've been having with Tyler. But even prior to that, when I was with Mike and Travis at Smart Spaces, I believe this time last year, part of the panel discussion that we were on was regarding IoT and a lot of the things that fall in Travis's wheelhouse. And that's going to coincide a lot of what we're just going to riff on today. Probably you and Tyler are going to do most of the talking, and Keith and I will try to sit here and look as pretty as we can.
No pressure.
But why don't we just start, Travis? I know you and I kind of know each other, and we network all the time on LinkedIn. Sent some business your way here and there, just in case you're wondering where some of it came from. Hopefully, some of it was from me. But if you kind of want to give Keith and Tyler an intro into who you are and what you do, that'd be fantastic. But if I may be as selfish to say, Travis, so Keith and Tyler, Travis is probably one of the best salespeople there are, mostly because there's no sales in his title, but he knows his stuff so well. He gets on panel with the market development folks, and they just keep inviting him back, and he keeps making sales for the salespeople. So it's like cheating. Anyways, sorry, Travis. Go ahead.
It's okay. Well, you know what? I'm a frustrated sales guy. Is what I really am at my core. So about 25 years in the security, access control, and physical hardware space. I'm a door lock guy and a door guy at my very core. And 7-8 years ago, I was a hardcore sales guy, right? Living in the CRM, chasing deals, doing all of that stuff, singing for my supper, base plus commission, answering to the national sales manager, that whole thing. Lived that. I missed 5 Friday sales phone calls in 7 years, right? So I have been punished as a sales guy. But for me, I was very frustrated because these big mega manufacturing corporations were building terrible products to be connected products. And it was so frustrating to have to go to my customers who might have been hospitals or big multifamily in the hospitality space, right? And sell them terrible products. So when I got tired of being a beat up sales guy, I decided to jump over to the manufacturing side and begin helping manufacturers build better products, build products that customers might actually want to buy, products that actually solved their problems, took away their pain points, and leveraged, the emerging technology, right? Which is that mobile phone and mobile device. So really for the last 7-8 years, I have been a product manager more or less within the connected devices spaces with a specialty in locks. But in that time, definitely dove deeper into the IoT, into connected products, wireless mesh products, offline products, and I've now been able to work with a number of really great world-class manufacturers. I currently work with Dormakaba, who's a global leader in connected products. Dormicaba, for those that don't know, we do probably close to 50% of the hotel locks out there. You won't necessarily see our name on it, but if you stay at a Hyatt or a Marriott or Hilton Properties or whatever, you're actually using and interacting with products that we make. We're huge within the hospitality space. And then we're also very big within multifamily. We sell a number of different product platforms into that multifamily space. That's where Matt and I got a chance to hook up and chat and realize, oh, hey, we see a lot of the same stuff and have had a lot of shared pain. And I am going back to a business development role. So I have been asked by the business to move from product.
Hey, check that out.
Go back to business development. So
you're coming home,
some more
Travis.
announcements about that related to IS.
You're coming home. You're coming home, my brother.
I need a break from the engineers. I spend all my time with mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. I need some time away from the engineers. I hate to say it. I love them all to death, but I need a break.
Travis, we all know what you want to say, but as salespeople, we can't say it because they'll quit helping. So, and I just want to point out that Matt is also a frustrated salesperson, and when he gets frustrated, he just goes and gets a new tattoo. So he's running out of space. Next will be the Tyson face thing.
It's gonna be right here.
I can see him doing that, but I got some ink too, so it just comes with the territory.
It just does. It just does. I appreciate that. So I guess I will rewind what I said. Travis was a sales guy. He became a better sales guy by not being a sales guy, and is going to go out and teach other people now how to be the better version of what he's developed. You're awesome, Travis. Look, I not to stroke your ego, but you really are, man. I really enjoyed networking with you and being on panel. I steal from a lot of things you said. I do it all the time, just to be honest with you. So dropped your name a few times.
Well, I'm never shy about my opinion. So
it's true. Well, I loved it. So I appreciate that. So, and then you know what? Look, we're your Dormicaba stuff is probably operating on a lot of our infrastructure out there. And to that end, as we have more of this discussion, you're going to see why you and Tyler, as well as Blueport, like Tyler with Roaming IQ and Blueport, we all kind of tie in together for the topics at hand here. So Tyler, if you want to give a little bit of background on yourself to Travis and what Roaming IQ is and what you do, that'd be fantastic. And we'll just dive in. I'll just start lobbing questions at everybody.
Yeah, sounds good. So it's cool. It sounds like Travis's, background and current role is all about the physical security, and we're all about the digital security, right? So Roaming IQ's got a software as a service platform called Vault that's all about helping users onboard and authenticate to Wi-Fi networks. So we've got a backend database to store user credentials and let users access a Wi-Fi network. And we've got a user interface for administrators and end users to interact with in order to sign up for Wi-Fi service, retrieve their Wi-Fi credentials, change their Wi-Fi credentials, manage their account, process payments if necessary, all that good stuff. So we're all about the digital security, and the core of our system is security. We are not an unsecured network provider or software company. To use our system and to be involved with it, every user is going to have a Wi-Fi password that belongs to them. So that's unique to them. So there's not going to be any warnings on devices that you're connecting to an unsecured network or anything like that. So we make it easy to securely provide Wi-Fi credentials to users. And that's the core of our system. So it's a good compliment to you. And it really hit me when you were talking about some of the bad products out there with door locks, because I have some in my house. I have door locks from a company that's yellow, and they are just not great smart locks to deal with. One of them's been offline for about a month, and I can't fix it.
Well, and they got divested as their parent decided to buy some shinier object. So you're not going to get any help anytime soon, probably.
No, I just give up and accept that it only works if I physically enter the code, and my phone's not going to do anything.
You see, Keith, why I was almost afraid to put these two on panel here together. I'm just saying, anyway, I knew they were going to hit it off. But real quick, Travis, is Dormicaba still doing some things with some airports, if I remember right? Just real quick, I know it was a cool thing. So if you want to plug that real quick, that'd be great.
As a global manufacturer, we have a ton of touch points, right? We own a number of different businesses, and we work in almost every market vertical except consumer home. So
You can't help me out then. I got nothing.
That's the one thing, right? So we're huge within, healthcare, hospitality. We're huge in the university space. We're big in airports globally. Dormicaba, we make the exit lanes. If you've been through some of the automated exit lanes, when you land at the airport and you go through those series of glass gates, you can see some cameras and other stuff verifying you're going from the secured to the unsecured side. We make those systems. Our company Alvarado did the ticketing kiosks for the Super Bowl for the 4th year in a row. So we have a company that handles the gate level ticketing, the physical devices where you're verifying your ticket, that you've got a genuine ticket, doing all that stuff to go into sporting events and venues and all of that kind of stuff. It's one of the reasons I love working for the business, because we always are getting into really interesting applications and different things that are happening. And then, Tyler, I live in a world where physical security and physical access and logical security are absolutely coming together, right? That's becoming how things are happening, right? So we're focused right now on trying to deliver more interoperability. We want to make sure that user has more power and control over their own identity that's being used to authenticate them to these various systems. Now, we have more of a physical side to what we're doing, but there's just tremendous parallels between what you guys are trying to accomplish and what we're trying to accomplish.
Perfect segue into kind of the first topic or statement here, and that is really why I wanted you to, well, for obvious reasons that you just, everyone just heard, but there is. When we get into multifamily, and back to kind of the panels that we were on together, Travis, where everyone was really dropping, the managed Wi-Fi claims and all that other stuff, and we start getting into what makes managed Wi-Fi great, what makes it an asset. Not too long ago, we had the CEO of Realty.com Partners on here, Rush Blakely, and we asked a question, and not to quote the exact question, but it was similar to, hey, Rush, what do you think, based on what you're seeing from your clients and all of our mutual clients, basically the end consumer, what is the most valuable thing about managed Wi-Fi? You've asked the salespeople, they're pitching NOI. They're using that as their number one pitch. But what are you seeing? And his answer was, well, I'm going to put resident experience as number one, ease of use, which includes ease of use and everything else. And I don't want to put words in his mouth. People can go back and watch that called Ask the Pros Realty.com Partners episode. But we found it really interesting. He put the NOI as definitely in the top 5, of course, because it's business. But he put that, maybe as number 4 with resident experience, ease of use, the fact that you're going to have a ubiquitous network that runs your business. And so resident experience as well as running your business fall right into Tyler and Travis's world, because running the business and the operations of a multifamily community or any managed network within a business, enterprise, hospitality, or multifamily needs to work well with the equipment in place using the network, right? And then Tyler, on your side of the world, authentication, ease of use. You got to register MAC addresses, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but there's all these things that make it complicated, which are some of the things that Travis mentioned to me, and when we were on panel, without diving into the weeds of, holy smokes, what if the network goes down? I'm not going to register every single door lock's MAC address on the, et cetera, et cetera. So the first thing I want to ask is, and I'll go to you first, Tyler, is when we hear the words ease of use and resident experience, what do we think people are saying by asking that or making that statement? And 2, why is some of the solutions out and the authentication on managed networks today for the end user, whether it be a business, hospitality, but really multifamily, right? Why is it more difficult than people are expecting based on the solution types that are out there, and what sets Roaming IQ apart? Carry the 2. Okay, yes, I think I asked that right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try to remember it and answer it correctly. So
no worries. Go ahead.
So I'm a product guy by background, right? That's what I love is solving problems that users have. So I'm definitely all about the user experience piece, right? I think that's the most important aspect of any sort of managed Wi-Fi solution. And I get, a sales individual pitching to a property ownership group. The ownership group, they want to hear NOI. That's what they're there for, right? But one influences the other, right?
Right.
A good NOI does not make a good user experience, but a good user experience will make more NOI. So to me, you do start with the user experience. And so to that note, the reason Roaming IQ exists is because myself personally and some of our founders were not happy with the available user experiences in managed Wi-Fi. And the problem was back then, there was always a trade-off between security and convenience, right? So a convenient managed Wi-Fi network would just be an unsecured open network. Just connect to it, you're up and running, you're good to go. Incredibly convenient.
Hold on, and I hope you don't mind that I step on you occasionally, because I want to make sure the folks out there listening to it, anybody who's in what we do knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If I'm someone who's never done this before, what does that mean? An unsecured network, you go there. So
sure.
The way I'm thinking about that when I hear it, if I don't know what it means, is okay, I come here, there's Wi-Fi, I can connect to it, it's not secure. What does that mean?
Yeah, it means you're not asked to put in a password, right? So it's the type of network where, on your phone, you click the network name and one of two things happens. You either are connected or you are then asked to enter a password, right? If you're asked to enter a password, that's probably a secured network. And if you are asked to not enter a password, that is technically an unsecured network. And what it means
I won't ask you to go into detail yet about possibly, because I'm sure you're going to do that.
No, I'll give you a little on what it means to be unsecured. Is it means that the wireless traffic is not encrypted, right? Okay. When there's a password, the access point or the router, if it's a home network that you're connecting to in your phone, are encrypting the data, the wireless data back and forth. When there's no password, it's unencrypted and therefore open to being intercepted with some devices that are out there. So it used to be, back to that point, that you were having to make a trade-off, right? Either it was secure or it was convenient. Convenient would be unsecured. You just click the button to connect to the network. You're not asked to enter a password, which means you don't have to figure out what that password is, right? Where is it? You just connect to the network and you have internet access.
So Starbucks, if I go to Starbucks,
right?
Would that be accurate or no?
Yeah, that's an unsecured network. There may be a splash page, but a splash page doesn't necessarily make that. A splash page does not encrypt the wireless traffic, right? It may authenticate that you are allowed to connect, but it does not make your connection secure. It just means that you're allowed to be there. And in the end of the day, I could be a hacker who's just sitting in the Starbucks, and therefore I am allowed to be there, right? I'm allowed to connect to that network. So those are convenient, but they're not secure. So then you go to the other side, again, back then, where you can have these secure networks, but it was a false sense of security. It was oftentimes a single Wi-Fi password for the entire network. And if it's a single Wi-Fi password for the entire network, then everybody has the Wi-Fi password. So let's translate this over to a physical door lock here, right? We've got door locks that require a 4-digit code to enter. If everybody knows the 4-digit code, the door lock is kind of pointless, right? It's not
Travis,
really
would you agree
doing
with
that. So that's how those networks operated. So back then, that was kind of the choice you would make. You could do a single password for everybody. But then some technology started to come into play that would allow multiple passwords on a single network. And so you started to see a bit of a shift to allow the wireless traffic to be encrypted because a user would have to enter a Wi-Fi password. But there were big limitations on how many passwords you could have on a network. And worse than that, Matt, you just touched on it, they would require you to register a device's MAC address. That process was invented in 2004. And a MAC address, to anybody listening to this, if you're on the technical side, you probably know what that is, but, go ask your mom or your grandma who's got a phone, got an iPad, ask them what the device's MAC address is, and let me know what their answer is, right? So the process used to be you'd have to register the MAC address. So I know I've gone on a little long here, but Roaming IQ's founding was that myself and our business partners, we didn't like any of the solutions that were out there. We said, look, if you're in a single family environment, you just put a Wi-Fi password in on your phone and you connect to the stupid network. You're done. That's how we connect at our house. That's how it works. Why do we make multifamily suck? Was really the question. Why was the multifamily experience not as good and as easy as the single family experience. Why can't you just put in a password and be securely connected to the network? And so then Roaming IQ was born. And we created a product that focused on that user experience. How can we make a managed Wi-Fi community with all this fancy enterprise-grade equipment that costs way more than a home network, and all this fancy monitoring and alerts and all those benefits on the back end? How can we make the front end and the user experience just as good as a single family network where you just enter a password and you get connected securely and you don't have to worry about it anymore? We created Roaming IQ, and then all those companies that had bad solutions copied us.
I like it. What it sounds like is, for the longest time since 2004, a decent or good idea at the time was expanded on. Some people, to Travis's point, spent way too much time with the engineers. Didn't think about the end consumer, right? Or the user of it. Overcomplicated. No, I'm just kidding. I digress.
It was a good solution for the time, right? And I mentioned this in the white paper. In 2004, I remember these quotes because I wrote them. In 2004 was the first time Regis Philbin asked who wants to be a millionaire, and the best smartphone on the market was a BlackBerry. So you got a technology that was invented in that environment that then later, when 5G is starting to deploy and everybody's got an iPhone and an iPad and a smart TVs didn't exist back then, right? But the same technology, when Regis Philbin said who wants to be a millionaire, was being used in the era of the smart TV and the iPhone and the 5G network starting to come around. Doesn't make any sense. Right?
So let me see if I can do what Keith does really well. He'd probably do this better than me, but I'm going to give it a shot. I love everything you just said, but I'm going to put it in terms that a simpleton like me, not calling Keith a simpleton, but like me could understand, right? So if I'm understanding right, from a user experience standpoint, and then I'm going to kick it off to Travis, because this is going to, I think, just set him up for a layup here. I think I'm using that basketball term correctly. But if I'm moving into a unit and I'm using the old school 2004 stuff, I might be able to get my initial password, the initial one to hook up my laptop, and that's secure. But if I have let's call it a faceless device, I've got a smart air fryer or smart kitty litter box, which is a true story, says Keith. That's a true story, he says. Or a smart fridge. I need to get that fridge online, which is part of IoT, and this is why I'm going to set Travis up for the layup here for the door locks and everything else. In order for me to get that online, well, I can't enter a password into the fridge. Some of them you can if they have a touch screen, maybe. I don't know. Right. But a lot of time, these faceless devices, which is a lot of the devices we use, you're going to need to call into a tier 1 or tier 2 support. They're going to have to ask you for the MAC address. You're going to go, what is a MAC address? I don't know what that is. Pull up this. What kind of phone are you using, or what kind of device? Look on the back. Look at the sticker. Maybe you scan the QR code. Okay, it's going to take you to a website. Yada, 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 which is, in fact, going to cost company money to support that, to have people answering the phone doing that, I would think. Tyler, you would know better than me. But that's the experience we're seeing a lot in managed Wi-Fi and in managed networks today, instead of what Roaming IQ offers, which is you get almost a residential single family home experience as if you went to your provider. They came in, they put in a gateway, and it operates. If I wanted to hook up a Ring camera, I just follow the onboarding user thing. I don't got to go register that MAC address. The Ring app does that on the network I'm on, et cetera, et cetera. With that, am I missing anything?
It was the number one support phone call we would take. How do I connect device blank, right? And the answer is take a second device, go to a website, and then register the MAC address for the device you're trying to connect, right? That was the process.
If user experience is number one
it was the number one support phone call. And now, if we were, or one of our customers is to take a support phone call that says, how do I connect the device? The answer is you follow the manufacturer instructions. There's nothing unique. You follow whatever the manufacturer instructions say.
It's a true residential experience and solution in multifamily, instead of trying to take a commercial type, 2004 developed technology and solution and implement it. I love that. Travis, hey, riff on that, man. I'm sure you heard a bunch of different stuff that you've experienced and seen. Give us the Travis.
Well, number one, I just learned some stuff. right? Like I tell everybody all the time, I always know just enough to be dangerous, right? Like, and as somebody who's worked with, built devices that need to go live on those, I'm very familiar with the MAC address, that whole thing, right? Products I've been involved with, was scan the QR code to start initiating all that kind of stuff. But a couple of things, like right off the bat, I talk about it all the time. There is the friction that exists between security and convenience. We talk about it all the time within an access control, and you gave a perfect example, right? If you write the 4-digit number on a piece of masking tape that you stick above the lock, is that space really secured? Or if the buttons are so worn out that you got a pretty good idea which 4 it is that really secured? And my industry has struggled with things like multifamily. Multifamily runs on convenience, but really needs security. In our industry, as I put it, security always equals friction. How many steps can I make you go through, right? So from our industry standpoint, we stack the deck. Like, we want you to jump through all of these hoops, right? Because that's more secure.
Yeah.
And over the last few years, I had real battles, especially over multifamily, right? Because a lot of the engineers and the folks I dealt with approached this stuff from like a DoD security mindset. And I'm like, dude, it's somebody's apartment. It needs to be quick set Kivo easy, right? It needs to be single family easy. And I talk about it's on the whiteboard in my office at home. Our job is always to essentially deliver a consumer level experience, because that consumer level figured it out, right? They dumbed it down. The challenge is when it's real easy, right, to do single family because it's this one-to-one relationship, right? And it's a consistent long-term relationship. That doesn't exist in multifamily, right? And the one thing I would say is the first challenge we run into in multifamily, you got the installers, right? If it's a new build, you have a very transient user population that's got to come in, install it, turn it all on, connect it, and then they're gone, right? And so within that multifamily environment, it presents whole different challenges. You don't have that in the single family sense, right? The owner buyer, that's one and the same. In multifamily, the buyer, the deployer, and then the long-term user is all different with very different user experiences, very different challenges, right? And that's a whole nother layer of complexity. And so learning and hearing a little bit about what Tyler's talking about, like, oh, that makes more sense. I've never necessarily dove that deep into that stuff. I knew about it, but he's 100% correct, right? We're all trying to deal with older infrastructure, right? When you really look at the majority of the Wi-Fi networks that are out there, they are coming off the older standards and the older paradigms. And then we as manufacturers, and we're all guilty of it, we were like, oh, the Wi-Fi network's there, let's pile on. But Matt, we talked about this, right? How many multifamily properties have latest generation Wi-Fi networks that can support all of this kind of stuff, right? And I'm a lock guy, and I come along and I now hang 400 locks on top of that, and our gateways and our stuff, right? And yeah, I tell everybody our traffic's tiny because it is, but man, that's just more stuff that's all piling on there. And that's then when people are like, screw it, we'll just run everything wide open. Well, a couple of years ago, you could get away with that kind of stuff. Fast forward now, the bane of my existence is like a flipper zero, right? Like there's now, when there was a BlackBerry, if you wanted to be a hacker, you literally needed to move a small office worth of equipment, right, to go hack. Not now. Right now, it's this small little device that sniffs out the signals, that grabs that data, and right then and there within a few buttons. And so suddenly that cybersecurity paradigm has really shifted just within, honestly, the last 18 to 24 months. And now there's a land rush opportunity of there's new flipper replacements that are showing up in the market that are stuff's coming out of the woodwork that is allowing you get on those Wi-Fi networks, get at all of that unencrypted traffic, intercept all of that stuff, do all of it. And so it's very timely conversation about all of this stuff, because these two worlds are on a crash collision course, and you need to be able to be deploying way more secure, way better solutions, but you can't do it by adding all this friction. More friction doesn't equal more secure. More friction means less secure because the human gets frustrated and comes up with a workaround. So we have to really collectively on both sides of the house figure out, how do we make this easier so we can make it more secure? And then they don't notice that the security's there. And security should always be living in the background, protecting all of us. It should just be there. It should be kind of a fundamental thing, right? It should be the default. And unfortunately, it hasn't been that way for a really long time. But I'm excited. I definitely, I hate to say it, I like white papers. You're going to need to send me that white paper. I know what I know because I spend a ton of time reading white papers. So Travis, I can better understand, what is the challenges? What are the opportunities? How is it being addressed? So I love white papers.
Travis came in with a white paper, and on the front it's going to say, "To my new friend Travis, love Tyler." There's a little heart.
XOXO.
Hey, I write white papers for our stuff all the time. I wish I could get more C-suite execs on my side to read them.
But I'm gonna really password protect it and make it difficult for you to open it just to keep it
Let's
secure.
see how good you are, Travis.
I'll put it in an Ignite folder and encrypt it and do a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like,
I heard some really good stuff in there because and I know it's hard to get really good techie, sales guys like both of you on here. And just, hey, be super salesy and simple, but you know what? Talk about your product and engineer it. And we're finding that equilibrium here in the middle. So just to kind of keep honing in on customer experience, and it was a perfect segue. You both did it naturally. Going now into ease of use and customer experience to security. You spoke on that. Tyler, and not to just keep the same order, but I think it's a good way to ping pong this ball back over to you over the net, because I believe, and you'll do it way better than me, Roaming IQ really has a way of doing that, ensuring on old networks, it's agnostic as far as manufacturers for the most part. I think there's some limitations there. You can go into that, but when it comes to considering a managed environment, I think you're provider agnostic. You're pretty much equipment agnostic, infrastructure agnostic. Tell us about that, because that's gonna. And again, you can just hit the ball right back over the net to Travis, because I think he's gonna get a kick out of this part.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, before I answer that, I'm going to say I loved that if you make it more convenient, you may make it more secure. I have never heard anybody say that before, and I love that. I'm going to steal it. I'm going to use it. And I'm going to claim it as mine that I made it up.
Hey, this is being recorded, Tyler.
But
I mean, you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit. But go ahead.
Crap.
It's all good. I'm like Gary Vaynerchuk. I just put it out into the world and hope that it goes off to go do good things. I keep finding my stuff getting borrowed, and I'm happy to have it.
I borrowed your stuff, Travis.
I'm not really that smart, man.
No lie.
You got to make it an NFT, I guess, if we're going with a Gary analogy here. So, yes. So what? Let's see. Oh, the networking equipment. Yeah. So, our system, from an infrastructure standpoint, right? Our platform communicates with the beginning of the network and the end of the network. So what I mean by that is we're going to communicate with the top level device in that network closet, which is going to be your router, right? So that's going to come in really, no matter what the infrastructure after that is, doesn't really matter. You're always going to have a router on site at a managed Wi-Fi property. And then all the way down to the other end of the network is the radio, the Wi-Fi, the access point, the thing that broadcasts the Wi-Fi signal and lets users connect. That is the other device we're going to speak with. For the technical people listening, we're talking to the controller, but let that go. So we're also talking to the access point there on the other end of the network, right? Everything in between is infrastructure.
Real quick, sorry to do this to you. Real quick, what is an access point?
So an access point is in your home, you would refer to it as the router. It's the device that is broadcasting the Wi-Fi signal. So when your phone connects to the internet, that is the first device that it makes the connection to, is the access point.
Thank you.
I could give you a better description. It's the doohickey. It's the doohickey in the ceiling. That's not the smoke alarm.
Right. That has lights on it. That lights up and annoys you when you're trying to sleep because it flashes. So everything in between those ends, right? So those are the two things that our platform is going to communicate with. And everything else in between is where we're talking infrastructure, right? Whether you have the latest and greatest fiber optical network through and through, or you've got an older network with coaxial cable, or God forbid, even older than that with like telephone wire. In between is that infrastructure. And so to your point, Matt, yeah, our platform is going to work with all of it because we don't care about that in between. We care about the very, very beginning and the very, very end of the network. And those pieces of equipment are going to be there no matter what the infrastructure is in between. So therefore, we know that we'll be able to support your network because that infrastructure is irrelevant to us. And then as far as those manufacturers go, you touched on it. Today, we support all of the biggest access point manufacturers that are in the multifamily community. And there's really none that we, from a technical standpoint, couldn't support. So we're constantly adding more. I think we added 2 in the past 6 months, 2 additional manufacturers. We're constantly adding more manufacturers, and when another one comes across our desk where a customer says, we'd love to do business with you if you can support blank, then we immediately get to work on making sure we can support that manufacturer. So
that's awesome. So I mean, and we're trying to, and I'm trying to do the best I even can to do the fine tuning between talking about security and customer experience. But really, the point of the call is to how do we marry those two together? And I think we're doing a really good job of doing that. So let's talk about the end consumer. I'm the resident. I'm moving in. If Roaming IQ was on site, and it's Matt's internet. I don't know. I have my own internet company all of a sudden. Okay, it's Matt's internet. Someone moves in. I've contracted with Roaming IQ to take care of the security and the networks. What is the staff on site going to be able to do? And what is the resident experience? So let's start with the resident. Resident moves in. They open up their device, and what happens?
Yeah. So a resident needs to sign up for service or have somebody else add them to the service. Those are the 2 paths that our system supports and that our system allows, right? So what that means is we host a website for our customers that's white labeled and branded for them. Our customer in that case being the service provider, Matt's Internet. Okay. So we provide Matt's Internet with a landing page and a online experience for a resident when they're moving in to sign up for internet service, right? So there's nothing really special or unique about that. We've all done it ourselves probably numerous times. So we provide that service. So that is one option, is that the end user can sign themselves up for internet service. Another option.
Once that resident does that, do they got to do it again every time they go on a network?
Or is it? No, it's a one-time sign up for a given property. If they move properties, there may be a re-sign up process involved.
Okay.
But for the duration of their lease at that site, that's a one and done.
One and done. Just like I sign up for service if I go on Comcast's website.
Exactly.
By example, not to drop their name, but I move into a residential home, Comcast is serving the area. I sign up online. I'm done. That's activate my router. I'm done. Same.
Exactly. And we let you do that whether you're signing up for a free service in a bulk environment or if you're signing up for a paid service where we're going to process a monthly credit card payment.
Got it. Okay.
Another path is that an administrator can add you, right? So that would look like perhaps a property management, the leasing staff. When you sign your lease, they just go in and add you to our system. Either one of those paths can occur. And what happens after that is the same, regardless of which path is taken. So at the end there, either you signed yourself up for service or some sort of administrator added you to the service.
So I'm there, I'm signing my lease. Property manager says, hey, do you want me to do this for you? I say yes. I'm making things up as I go here, but would that be a good example?
That's often how it happens. Or the property manager maybe doesn't even ask you. They just do it out of convenience. They just put you in there.
Okay.
And then what's going to happen after that is you're going to get an email with next steps. And those next steps are click a link, create an account password, log in, you're done, right? It's seconds. I don't even want to say it's minutes. It's seconds in order to do this, right? So you sign up for service, property manager adds you, doesn't matter which one, you get an email that says, click this link to finish your account setup. You click the link, you create a password, and now you have internet access.
So for client experience, end user experience, that is I'm not even going to say identical, even easier than a single family home environment
Yeah,
because it's
because
already on. It's already installed.
Yeah, the equipment's already there. You didn't have to plug in any equipment or have equipment mailed to you and wait a day or two, if you're lucky, day or two.
Now I'm going to hit you with
show
this. Well, hold on. Now I'm going to hit you with this, and then I'm going to toss it over to Travis. But I already know you're going to be able to answer it well. Hold on a minute is what I'm going to say. Hold on. You just said that when it's convenient, it's less secure. That sounded really convenient, Tyler.
Yeah.
Why is that secure? How is that secure? And what does that mean for the staff and the people on there? How do they not worry? That was really easy.
Yeah, it's a good question. Because the credentials that you use to access the network put you in your own traffic lane that nobody else can get into. So the best way I could think about this is, we've got a four lane highway going down the road, right? And in a completely open network, cars can bounce around into each other's lanes and look in each other's windows, right? They can see what's going on. In our system, you got this 4-lane highway going down, but there's big center dividers on the left and right side of your vehicle. So you're all going the same direction. Your traffic, you're all moving down the same highway, but you've got these big walls. You can't see into each other's cars. You have no idea what's going on over there. That's what our system is doing in a virtual sense. When you're added to the system, even though you're on the same physical connection as everybody else, it's the same overall network. There are these big medians, these big walls up where you can't see anybody else's devices. You can't see anybody else's traffic. You can't see each other, even though you're all driving down the highway in the same direction.
So I'm seeing how this ties back into what you were saying about it, the original product not being user-friendly. Because instead of those walls going up and it being easy to drive into there, you had to get off the freeway, build the brick wall, which is registering the MAC address, make sure about... That makes all the sense in the world. It's easy to create those walls, those dividers, and you get on and you just start driving. You don't got to get off the freeway, buy an up armored car to protect yourself, and yada yada yada. And maybe that's a bad example, but what would that mean to like what things that like Travis does, where he develops these locks, they deploy all these locks, they're now putting overload on the system. Now his stuff, although it probably could, shouldn't go on that individual lane that's private to the one person traveling down the highway. What would that mean for Travis? And then we'll kick it off to him and see how that works with what he does. I'm assuming there's a different network then than the Dormicava locks could work on.
Yeah, so it's also a good question. So I'll kind of expand it a little bit to just broader IoT devices, right?
Okay.
And let's see, the long answer to that is probably to get into the weeds of, how you configure a network, and that there's sort of different answers to that question. So
we'll let people email you. And
right. We won't jump in that. So
the
the shorter answer, and I definitely would love, Travis to expand on this. The shorter answer is that most of those connections go out over the internet. And so therefore, when you go to change your door lock remotely, if you're going to unlock a door, then that connection is actually going out over the internet. And so it's not necessarily those lanes or those dividers don't necessarily matter. In other situations, it's a Bluetooth connection. So I'm trying not to get too much in the weeds there, but
that's Travis's world there. Yeah, sure.
Travis could probably definitely speak to it better than I can. But the overall point is to say that it's going to depend on how you set up the network. Either that door lock is going to be sitting in your lane, or that door lock is going to be kind of no different than Netflix, in the sense that you're reaching off of the highway in order to communicate with it. It's typically going to be one of those two scenarios. And like I said, I'm sure Travis can jump on that as well.
But needs to be secure. Travis, go ahead. We talked about a lot of different stuff, man. As it relates to the world of Travis Willis, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, it's interesting because there's some very good parallels here that I think we can build on. So one of the things about Dormicava is we own a separate technology company called Legic, based out of Switzerland, and Legic underpins our infrastructure across all of our products, our hotel locks, our multifamily locks, the locks I take care of. And I use a pipeline analogy, Tyler, instead of the highway, but it's very similar. So people always ask me, they're like, "Hey, Travis, what does Legic do?" Well, we're in the secure infrastructure business, not unlike what Tyler's kind of talking about. And what that means is we have a cloud service where data comes in. Data comes in from all of our different partners and systems. It could be the hospitality, booking system from Marriott. It could be a multifamily partner, PropTech platform or whatever. Their data that needs to get to our lock goes into that secure pipeline, gets encrypted, and then delivered over the mobile device infrastructure and or the Wi-Fi infrastructure to that device. And what sets us apart is our recipient device has a secure chip with a secure element in it that only sees encrypted data. And it only sees the correctly routed encrypted data. So commands and instructions and information goes in and then comes out at the lock level, at the IoT device level, right? So really you start to think we're not so much a door lock as we are an IoT device. And it's all that traffic between what goes in and what comes out is always encrypted, right? So we become another layer of security that lives on top of what Tyler does. And it's the blending of those two environments seamlessly that allows for a much, much more secure and robust environment to be delivered, because I'm protecting Tyler's stuff. Tyler's stuff is protecting my stuff, which is ultimately protecting the end user and their data, their privacy, their rights, the property manager, their cyber operations, their IT and network, their infrastructure, right? So now we're suddenly getting into a situation where we've made it easier to deploy redundancies and additional layers of encryption and security into that building and that environment. But we're doing it in a way that is seamless, that is easier, right? So they're getting an invite from the system that allows that tenant to add their access credentials into the system. All of that's been secured. All they've got to do is download the app and hit, I'll accept this, right? We've taken out all that heavy lifting behind the scenes, just in the same way that Tyler's taken out all that heavy lifting behind the scenes. What we've done is we've made it, we followed the KISS principle, right? Keep it stupid simple. They just show up, they say, here's who I am. They deal with whatever identification piece they got to do. And then we take care of all that heavy lifting behind the scenes. And really what Tyler's doing and what we do are very, very complementary and reinforcing what we're both trying to get accomplished. So it's good. I'm definitely, Tyler, want to get you connected to our multifamily sales group because I think there's a really compelling conversation to have jointly with a lot of these folks in the multifamily space. Once they begin to understand, we're not adding complexity, we're taking complexity away and we're replacing it with security. That's really what's happening.
No, for sure. And just real quick, you had spoken on something that on these encryptions and things like that. And again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I'll probably forget a lot of what you just said. I'll have to call you, Travis, later and go, can you explain this to me again? But you had talked about the firmware updates and everything else happening over a network. Is it really important for that network to be secure as well?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because traffic is traffic, right? Now,
right.
The more layers we can put out there of protection on stuff, the better it is. I tell everybody all the time, there's a security arms race constantly being fought, right? In the age of the BlackBerry, like I said, you needed a room full of equipment to go hack my stuff. Now, you go on Amazon or you go on the dark web, and for $109.99, you buy a Flipper Zero, and you can try to go after my stuff, right? Starts with Tyler's group protecting a lot of that traffic, and then it ultimately flows down to us as manufacturers, whether we're building door locks or we're building thermostats or we're building smart lighting or whatever. We have to bring in our own layers of security that live and play nice, and most
to give
importantly,
Travis Company a little
play
bit of
nice
a plug
with Tyler
here,
stuff.
To give your Dormacaba a little bit of plug here, and if you're not using Dormacaba or Logic, they could be opening your doors or unlocking them at night and coming in.
I would say a few of our competitors have
had
unfortunate cybersecurity breaches, right? Like, we're always at risk. I'm always careful because I'm just waiting for the next smart hacker to figure out how to break down the encryptions and the stuff we use. Jeez. But, I mean, that's the reality is we always have to be pushing. We always have to be adding additional layers and redundant. We have to make it difficult. We should be making sure we're adding friction for the hackers, the people that are trying to attack this stuff. I'm okay with putting as much friction in front of them as possible, but that's not our users. Our users aren't hackers. Our users are users. We need to make their life easy.
Yeah, and I don't want to promote fear, but I am okay with promoting a healthy fear, right? To
You have to be
the exact definition, we need to have a healthy fear or respect.
A few years ago, yeah, the risks weren't the same that they are now, right? And that's where we've been trying to help our customers understand. 5 years ago, it was a lot less of a chance of it happening, right? Now, it's gone way up. And I think I talked about it at the event in Texas. Matt, I live in the college higher ed space, right? So I deal with bored college kids with money. and that's who's constantly taking a pot shot at what we do in the world I live in, right? I have bored college kids that hey, we have all these new cool features and tools and devices. Let's figure out if we can hack that stuff.
So real quick, just because I see we're coming up on the top of the hour here and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We've touched on some really cool, important points here, and there's some good synergies. So Tyler, with what Travis just said about the network, that his locks or the IoT things to get their firmware updates need to be secure. How does Roaming IQ help with that? Because I'm pretty sure you have a solution for that, right? You have separate different networks that you can set up, or the managed services set up a different IoT network. How does that work real quick?
Yeah, no, there's a number of ways to do it. And the college thing was great to hear, because I'm thinking of the campus buildings that we broke into in the day of prior to smart door locks. And I'm trying to decide if it would have been easier or harder to do that with a smart lock, right? I picture like we would have been sitting there with binoculars, like watching a faculty member like punch in the code to try to figure out what it is so we can get in there at night, is probably how we would have done it.
You don't need to look up the statute of limitations and whatever.
I think I'm good.
The college.
I think I'm good. I think
Well,
I'm all right.
I say it all the time. Those of us that are in physical security, cybersecurity, if we can't break into stuff, we're not good at our job. Like,
there you go.
Yeah, fair
Right.
enough.
I constantly get yelled at by my wife and kids for breaking into places because, I can't.
Yeah. So to your question though, Matt, yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways, right? But absolutely, with our platform, we can issue a Wi-Fi password where, all of the IoT network receives its own Wi-Fi password that's separate from the rest of the network, but it's on the same, SSID or network name. You can broadcast a very specific IoT network as like a separate network that only those devices have access to. There's a number of ways to solve the challenge and make sure that the IoT devices are striking that balance between staying secure, but also being able to communicate with users, because back security convenience. It'd be incredibly secure if you just stuck the IoT devices on there and they couldn't talk to anything, but wouldn't be all that convenient, but it'd be the most secure IoT network you could ever have, right? Our system was a number of ways to do it, but ultimately you allow users to communicate with IoT devices and allow the IoT devices to stay secure and only receive communication from users who are allowed to communicate with them.
And then Travis, kind of same question to you. If you're going into an environment and you find out the ISP or MSP in there is working with a company like Roaming IQ to do their authentication, and they work to have networks that are just dedicated for IoT, would that help you and your engineers and your sales staff or your deployment people?
100%, right? I mean, because this has been a challenge with a lot of the products that we're putting out there now, is we're at the mercy of the infrastructure. We're at the mercy of those partners, right? Like if they're not good, then we don't look good, whether it's our fault or not, right? And it's been one of those things where I've been pushing the business to make sure we're aligning with companies like Roaming IQ, because we can fast follow and ride the benefits and have the benefits of what they've done, because it just makes our stuff run so much better, right? Like so suddenly now everybody has the appropriate level experience that we're after, because they've got the right network infrastructure, they've got the right structure and setup there, and we can work with them, right, to make sure that our devices are living in the right space and the right place within that IT infrastructure, and we're keeping that end customer really happy, because we're taking away the headaches, right? Like, that's the end of the day. If you can take away the headaches, you're winning. Right? That's what you want to be doing. You want to be taking away those headaches.
So I'm taking away that it's important for companies like Blueport or even our partners and ISPs and MSPs out there to ensure that they're working with a company that's going to allow them to have a good user-friendly experience like Dormacaba for their IoT door locks and things like that, like Roaming IQ, as well as they'll be working closely together to ensure that there's extra security on the back end, so you have both convenience and security all rolled into one. I think it's an important thing. I think it's an important topic, and I think we only scratched the surface. We could probably talk for 4 more hours on here. I know we could, but I think we capitalize on a lot of good stuff. I'll just one last thing I'd like to ask Travis. People wanted to get in contact with you, learn more about you, more about Dormacaba. How would they go about doing so?
I'm easy to find on LinkedIn because I got a big mouth and I'm always talking on there. The email address is travis.willis@dormacaba.com. Feel free to reach out anytime. I touch on a wide variety of market verticals and applications and stuff, and I always love talking about smart devices in general, not just door locks.
Awesome. And Tyler, same question to you. People wanted to get in touch with Roaming IQ, learn more about Roaming IQ, more about Tyler. What would be the best way of doing that?
Yeah, I'm all. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Tyler Nesper. I'm not very vocal on there, much to my marketing team's chagrin. But I do check it, and I will see notifications and messages and things like that, and I'll respond to you on that. And you can also email me, tnesper, Nesper, so tnesper@roamingiq.com.
Rock and roll. And then Travis, can we expect you to see you speaking at any conference or anything you want to give a plug at real quick? Or I know they got you running rampant at work, so
yeah, I'm leading a lecture next week as part of SIA Academy. The Security Industry Association has got a new series, and I'm leading a lecture next week on mobile as a modality, right? The impact of this little doohickey on access control. And then additionally, I'll be speaking with a couple of other folks at ISC West related to IoT, property tech, devices, IoT, property tech related kind of issues on there with Dan Kremens and the CEO of Sherry, which is kind of one of the really interesting up and coming prop tech user experience platforms that's out there. So yeah, I'm getting lots of stage time in the next month or so.
Awesome. And then Tyler, you're going to be at Broadband Community Summit next, I believe, or maybe there's something before that.
That will be the next thing, and funny enough, I will be on a panel there where we will be talking about risk management and security control for IoT devices and smart devices and access control. So if somebody like Travis isn't on there, I've also learned plenty from Travis on this call in order to talk about that stuff while I'm sitting on that panel at Broadband Communities.
Hey, Broadband Communities, invite Travis. I'm just kidding. No, I had like 19 other questions. No lie, I have them written down, and we just ran out of time. But look, maybe we'll do a follow-up one. Actually, maybe following Broadband Community Summit, Tyler, if you and Travis would be willing to come back after both of your speaking engagements over the next couple months, maybe we have a part 2 to this because I think that would be great. Can I have the right to reserve inviting you guys both back on?
I will.
Yeah, happy to.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'll double check my calendar and make sure I'm available and possibly be able to squeeze something in. We'll see.
Rock and roll. I appreciate everybody. We will. Everyone have a good weekend. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
All right,
All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Bye.
It was great having time with you.